A man named Sig, along with his people, was committing a robbery in a bank. He steals a device named Plot from a locker of the bank. However, everyone thinks this was a bank robbery done for money. All the police of the city come outside the bank and try to stop that robbery. Just then, an 8-year-old girl, holding candy in her hands, jumping and skipping, suddenly goes inside the bank. In reality, that is Lieutenant Frank Jr. of the LAPD's Special Division, who had come there disguised as that girl, heaven knows how. Now, how that girl became so big, either the one above knows or the director. Anyway, Frank, while fighting that gang, breaks their gun with his hand itself. Nonetheless, he beats and catches everyone. But in all this, Sig escapes from the back door of the bank and hands over that device to the richest man of the city, Richard, who was the owner of Eden Tech Company. His company used to invent new gadgets. Here, after stopping the bank robbery, while going to his office, Frank hits a man riding a bicycle and, carefree, goes straight to his office. There, Police Chief Davis, because of Frank's continuous carelessness towards the law and for causing damage to public property, removes him from the bank robbery case and puts him only on road accident cases. Then, Frank sits in front of the picture of his father, Frank Sr., hung in the office, and prays to him to send an owl as a blessing. In the same way, all the staff members also ask for blessings from the pictures of their respective fathers. Chief Davis sends Frank to the incident site along with his captain Ed to investigate his first road accident case. In that accident, a software engineer named Simon was killed. In the investigation, it is revealed that the car in which his accident happened is an electric car of Eden Tech Company. Just then, suddenly Frank's eyes fall on a matchbox kept in that car, on which a silver tiger was made. Frank considers this a case of suicide. Then, as soon as he reaches the office, Bounce, who is looking after the bank robbery case, tells Frank that the caught robbers do not know who their boss actually is, and he himself had told them all to keep all the robbed money. Just then, Frank says, "This means they misled us and stole something else from there." Right at that time, the deceased Simon's sister, Beth, comes to the office to meet Frank. Actually, she was a crime novelist. Seeing her beauty, Frank is blown away. Beth gives him some arguments and tells him that her brother did not commit suicide, but he has been murdered. And she also mentions the fact of him being a senior software engineer in Richard's Eden Tech Company. So she advises him to question Richard first of all and starts to leave from there. Seeing Beth leave, the desire to have sex with her becomes so strong inside every single policeman present there that Frank has to interrupt them. Then, Frank first of all reaches Richard's Tech Expo to meet him. Seeing Frank at his expo, Richard himself takes him aside from everyone else and starts praising his courageous works. Just then, seeing the matchbox found in Simon's car with Richard, Frank asks about that matchbox, so Richard tells him that this is the matchbox of his private nightclub, which all his members get as a compliment. Then, after talking about some other miscellaneous things, he leaves from there. The next morning, Richard sends an electric car from his own company to Frank's office as a gift. That car gets set to Frank's voice command, but in the process of its test drive, Frank uproots the power cable installed there, because of which the prison wall itself breaks, and all the prisoners run away from there, whom Ed requests to stop right there. But seeing all this, Frank thinks, I don't know why people are in such a terrible hurry. After that, Frank comes to interrogate a bank robber, but he does not confess to the fact at all that he was in the bank at that time. So Frank plays his body cam video in front of everyone and shows it to everyone, in the clip of which, seeing a gun with a man, Frank had pooped his pants. Anyway, finally the bank video comes forward, in which the robber is seen robbing the bank, so he confesses that he only had to steal a safety deposit box from the bank. Then, as soon as the name of the owner of that safety box comes forward, Frank's eyebrows go up, because that locker belonged to Simon, who was killed in the car accident. On the other hand, Richard calls a meeting with his billionaire associates, and explaining his plan to them says that to save this world, they will have to reduce the human population, in which a device named Plot, made by him, will help them. Then he shows his associates a test of it, demonstrating that this device will make people violent by sending a frequency blast into their minds. Because of this, to keep themselves alive, they will kill the person in front of them. Now he just has to increase the power of this device and send it to every single smart device present in the world, like phones, laptops, etc., to bring all humans under the grip of the device's frequency, and people like us will remain safe in the super bunkers made by me across the world, where there will be full facilities for our food and drinks. Then, when only a few people are left in the world, we will come out and redevelop this world. Here, Frank meets Beth again in Richard's nightclub, seeing whom excitement awakens inside Frank, and dirty thoughts start coming to him. Just then, Beth draws his attention and tells him that no one here knows that she is Simon's sister. Right then, Richard comes in front of her. Frank invents a name for Beth and tells it to Richard by combining the names of things present right there. Actually, Frank had come there to see the video footage of the club, but Richard, making an excuse of his members' privacy, refuses to show him the footage. So Beth, keeping Richard busy, tells Frank to sneak into the security room and watch the footage, and she herself sits down right there on a dinner date with Richard.
Meanwhile, right behind Richard's back, Frank knocks out his guard and enters the security room. As soon as he regains consciousness, the guard informs Sig about someone's intrusion. So as soon as Sig goes to Richard to tell him this, Richard does not let him say anything. Just then, sensing the atmosphere, Beth starts singing a nonsense song right there, which only Richard enjoys. On the other hand, Frank kills the security guard and plays the footage, but right then, advertisements start playing on that video. Anyway, the ads end. He sees in the video that Simon had met Richard the last time, but as soon as he left, he had also met a reporter, Douglas, who was sitting right there. Meanwhile, seeing the security guards coming towards him, Frank leaves from there. Just then, Richard tells the chief about Frank's intrusion. Davis calls Frank to her office that very night, and because of illegally investigating Richard's club, suspends Frank. Suspended Frank arrives at his apartment, but suddenly seeing Beth there, he drops his coffee out of fear. But still, he does not give her any information about the security tape, so Beth starts flirting with him, and Frank brings her into the apartment. On the other hand, Richard sends Sig to spy on Frank. There, he sees Beth with Frank. In the apartment, while cooking dinner together, both of them close the curtain, because of which Sig tries to watch their activity by turning on a thermal detector, but seeing the image coming from it, he misunderstands that they both are having sex. But after a little while, both of them really cannot stop themselves and get intimate. The next morning, Frank goes to crime reporter Douglas's house to meet him, but clumsy Frank picks up a knife kept there because below it on a paper, it was written to pick it up. After that, he reads another message on which confessing to this crime was mentioned. Frank records that too. Then going further into the room, seeing Douglas's dead body, Frank understands that the killer has very cleverly framed him for Douglas's murder. On top of that, the policemen see him with the dead body, but Frank very quickly jumps from the window, gets into his car, and leaves from there. But that car locks him in and rushes to drown with him in the sea, just like it did with Beth's brother Simon. But as soon as Frank tries to break the windshield and get out, first balloons and then bees enter the car, and just then, a new windshield slips from the hands of people carrying it and sets itself onto his car, because of which Frank gets locked in the car again. But he accidentally opens an old office assistant, with the help of which he opens the door, jumps from the car, and escapes. Just then, Ed calls Frank and tells him that the blame for the reporter's murder has been put on him. And because of this, our department has been locked up. Then, as soon as he reaches home, Beth tells him one more thing about her brother Simon, that he was working on a device named Plot, and if anything happens to him, Beth will have to stop that device from being misused. Hearing her words, Frank feels that Beth does not love him, and she had come to him just to find the device. Just then, Ed calls him and tells him that it was Richard's man, Sig, who had come out of the bank's back gate. So Frank kidnaps Sig and makes it look to him as if his master Richard has been arrested and has put the blame for the murder of Simon and the reporter on Sig. So seeing himself getting trapped, Sig tells Frank about Richard's plan that he has had a device made which is called Plot, and Richard is going to operate that device on New Year's, when the fight arena will be packed to capacity because it will cause a frequency blast that will strike people's minds and make them violent like animals. Along with this, Sig also confesses to the fact that they themselves had framed Frank in the reporter's murder. Just then, Sig sees that Frank has deceived him into spilling everything. After that, Frank and Ed immediately reach the arena and put frequency-blocking earplugs in their ears. Beth also comes to the arena to take revenge for her brother's death, and as soon as she aims a gun at Richard and fires, it misses because Richard had already taken the bullets out of her gun, as Richard had read a novel of hers in which a woman comes to take revenge in exactly this way. Then Richard takes out all her hidden guns and gets her tied up. Meanwhile, Frank succeeds in finding the device and even acquires it, but in all this, his pants fall down. Without pulling his pants up, he tells everyone to vacate the arena, but nobody listens to him. On top of that, Richard activates the device. Due to this, riots break out across the whole city, and before escaping from there toward the bunker with his wealthy associates, Richard targets half the crowd at Frank. Now begins Frank's brilliant fight, who, without killing anyone, keeps injuring everyone, one by one, with the magazine of his Mauser, but he becomes frustrated at not being able to chase Richard. Just then, his father's soul comes in the form of an owl, flies Frank to Richard, and pecks at Richard's helmet, making him blind. Now, due to not being able to see anything, Richard meets with an accident. Then, Frank knocks the wind out of Richard with just a single punch. Even so, Richard tries to fly and escape, but falls down after colliding with a streetlight. Just then, Beth comes there and is about to shoot him to take revenge for her brother. But Frank reasons with her, calms her down, and reassures her. Then Beth turns off the device, which calms everyone down, and love rushes through the entire atmosphere. After this, due to Frank's bravery, the ban placed on his department is lifted. But Davis holds a press conference and tells everyone that an investigation has been set up against Frank because of his illegal activities. Right at that same time, Frank is enjoying himself with his friend and Beth at an adult summer camp, and this story ends right here.